Comprehensive nature conservation is the most important measure in the fight against climate change. It starts in the minds of people, the main culprits of global warming. A few decades of exploiting the world's resources as if there were no tomorrow have been enough to put the natural basis of life at serious risk. Every aspect of life is affected by this, not just these African forest elephants. Even iconic species such as gorillas are threatened with extinction in many places. Their survival depends entirely on the preservation of the rainforest by those who live from and with it. Their take on living nature is central to the viability of our planet. This film about Gabon, a veritable rainforest treasure, will focus on this aspect, which is too often overlooked. The country on the Central African coast lies in the heart of the rainforest belt around the equator. Under the auspices of the Green Gabon project, it has made a commitment to wildlife conservation and sustainable natural resources management, raising awareness about the importance of elephants and other animals in forest conservation.
Forest elephants are the architects of the rainforest. They eat fruit, they swallow big seeds. The seeds go through their gut and get planted in a pile of compost. And so they play a critical role dispersing seeds and determining the distribution of some of the major trees even. And so the elephants, by cycling nutrients around the forest, are making the forest much more fertile and are increasing the productivity of the forest. And there's a new paper that has just come out in Nature, one of the best scientific journals, that shows that if we kill the elephants, we're likely to lose about 7% of the carbon stored in the rainforests of the Congo Basin. And so that would be a huge impact on climate change.
As important as the global context is to Gabon's environment minister, local people have other concerns.
Of course I'm afraid of wild animals. You can't fool around with elephants. It's always the same. When you go into the forest, you should always be afraid. We villagers don't have a choice. We have to go into the forest. We live from it and with it. We need wood to cook. No one here has a gas cooker. At night especially, everyone is afraid of the elephants. They can do a lot of damage.
The National Park Agency at Luango also depends on the goodwill of locals.
In the village we set up an elephant barrier to keep the elephants out of the plantations. But it also comes with its own unique set of problems, because everybody has to work together.
Conservation agencies in Africa are notoriously underfunded. They often lack the funds to maintain a kilometre-long electric fence.
This barrier is a joke. Without being connected to electricity, it is worthless. To keep us happy, they have to put up an electric fence. What they have built here doesn't help a bit. The elephants break through it easily and steal our fruits. We work for the elephants, not to feed ourselves. We are suffering here.
Traditional authorities, designated by state flags, lack the power to enforce people's concerns.
The new barrier has led to zero improvements. I discussed this with Werner ages ago. They want locals to listen to them, but they'd be better off doing what we want. I live here. I know my village. They should show compassion to locals and village leaders. They need to understand us.
At the moment, most of the people in the village is a little bit, they see the elephants as my pets. When they talk about the elephants in the park, they say, it's Werner's elephants. You have to give us money for the bananas they ate. So it's a difficult one.
When we grab a gun, Wynant always says, "No, don't kill the elephants." That's not what he wants. And what Wynant doesn't want, he really doesn't want.
The National Park Agency and locals are repeatedly at loggerheads.
They say they can't build decent roads here because it would encourage poaching. So how many poachers are there here? How much game is lost at their hands? Do poachers come to the park at all? We hardly have any food left because we're not allowed to fish where we want to anymore.
Fishing restrictions have been in place since the national park was established. This hits coastal inhabitants the hardest, and it's turning them against conservation.
Gabon is actually one of the most peaceful countries probably in Africa. That's probably due to the small size of the population. They're just under 2 million people in Gabon. That is probably also why it was so easy to create these new parks, because we've got 13 national parks, and then in 2015 I think it's almost 26% of the coastal waters of Gabon became marine parks. So we don't carry firearms in Luango, and that's mainly because it's not necessary. If we do catch people here, we all carry a whistle. You just blow on the whistle and the people normally comply. They're not very aggressive and they respect the uniform. Gabon's legal system is actually quite good. So when we capture a boat, they get decent fines. Some of the captains even got prison sentence if it was their second time they were caught. So it works.
Born in South Africa, Wynand has lived in Gabon for over 10 years. The many years of personal contact with local communities has taught him to respect their rights, as well as the National Park Agency's strict regulations.
Gabon parks is a fairly new concept for Gabonese people, because the parks were created in 2002. And in a lot of these parks, you had already settlements inside the parks, which were established for many years. So it's quite sensitive when you have these villages to find a middle path where both can benefit. Because at the moment, the majority of people see us as this big bully which arrive and tell them, you're not allowed to fish here anymore, but they've been fishing there all their life.
In many African countries, the establishment of national parks was accompanied by the forced relocation of local communities. This was not the case in Gabon. Here, a more modern approach recognising nature conservation as something with and for the people was at least partially adopted. Perhaps because sustainable resource utilisation was hardly a new concept in this region.
Life here? Well, we live. But actually, it's a very good life as long as we have enough bananas, cassava and fish. We don't have that many animals who destroy our crops, mainly elephants. We grapple with them a lot.
Bwiti, the traditional religion practiced here, maintains a worldview based on respecting the forces of nature.
To sum Bwiti up in a word, the core principle is conscience. But it's not something that can easily be put onto paper or written down in a book. It's in our minds and is passed on from father to son.
Life in villages like Moyo, in the middle of Luango National Park, is not without danger. The supernatural powers of ancestors and spirits provide protection.
Bwiti protects us. It can protect your own body. Or you can protect someone else spiritually, even without them knowing it. You can also be endowed with visions, like telling you not to go somewhere on a particular day, or predicting good luck, or making you doubt yourself.
Cultural traditions are passed on playfully to the young long before their initiation, when boys eat iboga, a hallucinogenic plant. Alongside dance, song and music, the bark of the iboga root induces visions which raise self-awareness about both the past and the future.
You see through things as if looking at yourself in an X-ray. The X-ray helps you to see what is wrong with you. It's like being in hospital for an operation. You have the anesthetist, the surgeon, and there is always someone who oversees the operation. For us, that is God. That's why we always call on God. He never fails us. In Bwiti, God is called Nzambe.
The analogy with the anaesthetist and surgeon is slightly incongruous. Iboga doesn't anesthetize, it expands consciousness.
Eating the iboga root is central to Bwiti. After you eat it, the rest comes naturally. You experience something like a second birth.
The Bwiti religion is intrinsically tied to nature. This religious outlook, with its focus on animate nature, taught believers to treat animals and plants with respect and care. Before each hunt, animal spirits must be placated in an elaborate nighttime ritual. Here lies the key to a modern-day approach to nature conservation. In places where local people see themselves on an equal playing field with wild animals, a diversity of species still exists today and is worthy of protection. In Gabon's national parks, animals are not as easy to find as in the sprawling savannas and semi-deserts of the eastern and southern parts of the continent. Qualified eco-guides like Yuri, well versed in both the ancient songs of the Bwiti religion and the hunting tricks of his ancestors, take on this task. Young people like Yuri feel at home in both worlds, with the religious traditions of hunting rituals, as well as with the modern-day demands of commercial safari tourism. Here, in the interior of the rainforest, it takes special skills to lure elusive animals out for the cameras. And even more importantly, not to jeopardize the safety of inexperienced tourists.
A
safari on foot in the rainforest is really quite dangerous because there are so many animals here that can attack you, such as forest buffaloes. If you cross paths with an injured buffalo, the guide at the front has to decide immediately whether an attack is a serious threat. If so, the second guide comes into play. He has to bring the tourists to safety, while the front guide attracts the buffalo's attention and distracts it. The same goes for elephants. They nearly always attack you if they're with their young. The worst thing you can do then is if everyone runs in a different direction. Elephants will attack anything that moves. A chaotic, volatile situation only aggravates them more. It's essential that everyone follows the front guide's instructions.
Only then can the safari experience be both unforgettable and safe.
Luango is a great place, partly because of its exclusivity. You have the feeling this remote corner of the world is just for you. You're completely alone. There are hardly any access points. You come into direct contact with the wildlife. The wildlife here is perfectly preserved in its original state, which is much to our benefit.
For locals, it's often the case of one man's joy is another man's sorrow.
None of this helps us at all. We can't hunt game anymore. Even fishing is difficult. If we could at least eat one animal a year, we're not even allowed to kill a single buffalo. They exist for our benefit, but they don't even let us do it. So how exactly do we profit from all of this? We live here like caged sheep.
For locals, it's hard to understand why other people always benefit from the tourism revenue. A 1-hour tour to see lowland gorillas costs around 450 euros. The money is divided up between the National Park Agency, tourism companies and research projects.
All of the apes and great apes are on the International Union of Conservation of Nature Red List, and they are all endangered at least. Here, the western lowland gorilla is endangered. They are facing many threats, such as poaching, the destruction of their habitat, disease transmission, but mainly it's because of human activity. So here in Gabon, they are really well conserved.
Gorillas have become an important source of foreign currency. This contributes indirectly to their survival.
Our work here is also to educate people who come here and to tell them what are the current threats for the gorillas, why habituating gorillas is important for conservation, because when people see them, when people can have pictures of them, films of them, they can relate more and empathize more and be more inclined to conserve them.
Face masks are compulsory to protect the gorillas from viruses, not just since the corona pandemic.
So to go into the forest, it's a hostile place, so there is like road before going into there. So the first rule is not being sick, because gorillas have a weak immune system compared to ours, and they are way more susceptible than us to disease transmission and to respiratory disease. We hope that all of the tourists are faithful and like they are not going to lie about this. And so also in the forest, we're trying to have neutral colors on us, to be silent as possible, to not scare the gorillas, to not do big gesture, and basically to follow the guide and the trackers who is with them.
It is an entirely unique experience to see gorillas in their natural habitat, especially as they seem unperturbed by the presence of humans, thanks to years of habituating. With a small group, it's possible to observe their natural life, and you can see they're just like us. It's fabulous, just stunning.
Many visitors describe this fleeting encounter as life-changing. Locals, on the other hand, are often left with the downside, such as plundered fruit trees. The slogan, "If the future belongs to nature conservation, then it belongs to you," is far from convincing to everyone.
I cannot accept this point of view. Death follows us everywhere. I could die right now, and you would say, "We've just spoken to the village chief. How can she be dead now? I'm 65 years old. Who knows if I have another decade left? Nobody knows." By the time the next generation comes along, I'll have been dead for a long time. So it would be a lot better if the conservation program helped me before I die.
Conservationists tend to focus primarily on wildlife conservation and preserving natural habitats. But intact ecosystems often owe their very existence to the local population, and with it, the privilege of observing baby gorillas in their natural habitat.
They play a lot. They laugh during their play, so we saw them opening their mouth and doing the like that. It's them laughing because they are enjoying, but also they are chasing each other. They can play in the trees, they can crack branches and just messing around for a long time. They make so much noise next to the parents who are trying to sleep, but yeah.
But perhaps these little kiddywinks are the key to raising people's awareness. According to the World Council on Biodiversity, up to 1 million animal and plant species will not survive the next decades unless profound changes are made. Gorillas belong to those animals under the greatest risk of extinction, not least due to continued deforestation in the rainforests.
When you conserve a rainforest, you conserve what we call umbrella species, but you also conserve little frogs, duikers, potas, elephants. You conserve an element of time, and everybody is important for the rainforest. Moreover, the rainforest is important for us, especially here on the equator, because it's what provides us O2 so we can breathe. We depend on it to be able to breathe. So that's why if we still want to see elephants, we need to conserve the rainforest, but also if we still want to breathe, and we need to conserve the rainforest.
Humanity's current approach to resource utilization therefore puts not only gorillas at risk, but humans themselves. This is especially true for the rainforests. The world's climate depends on them.
having intact, functioning ecosystems is one of the best ways to fight climate change. But having intact, functioning tropical rainforests, which are very high carbon and are able to remove millions and millions of tons of CO2 from the atmosphere, is critical to our ability to fight climate change.
Gabon's rainforest, like many others, is a treasure in disguise. Only in the worldwide safari market does Gabon play an insignificant role, with too little tourist infrastructure to make it a major player for now. If tourists want to delve into the rainforest's treasure chest, they have to do it largely on their own. This is only possible thanks to the local population, which preserve the environment for generations.
We protected all of this before the Europeans came. If we hadn't have done that, there would be no animals left, no fish, nothing.
Which makes it reasonable for locals to demand a fair piece of the pie.
So far, only tourism makes a living from it. It's good for them, but our community has yet to benefit. And that's what we're asking for. Our people are perfectly aware of the situation, and that's a problem. The authorities are obliged to work with us, so they have to share their revenue with us too. The park is there for us as well. No one can die of hunger if you live in a forest this size. We grow cassava, bananas, and so on. But the elephants destroy everything.
Abandoned houses and the strange symbiosis of intertwining plants and cables bear witness to the problems faced by local people when wildlife is given strict legal protection.
Now we know that if we lose the elephant, then it's not just an iconic animal that's disappearing. It's not just part of what makes the African continent disappearing, but it's also going to result in climate change becoming even more difficult to fight.
Conscience a bite like a mongrel dog lay down in a yard. Better you let sleeping dogs lie. When we're young we say live and let live. When we're old we say live and let die.
In Gabon, there is one elephant for every 50 inhabitants. It's hard to imagine a comparable ratio of wolves or bears in Europe.
Negative energy stay tapping up. Up a clutch from those and such they wanna see you. Signs of the times.
Things used to be different. Before the park existed, elephants damaged things too, but now it's out of control. They've bred like crazy. We have to stop them from multiplying. Our people used to kill them when they got too close, but now we're not allowed to kill them anymore.
Signs of the times, yeah. Children don't be so blah blah blah, no. Shut the cool as ice. Lyrical skill well lit.
Additional measures are called for. If elephants destroy the fields and we are not allowed to kill them, we are left with nothing to eat. We need government compensation.
Sunday night, machine pan lock, still dog a bark. I says hard but the smoothest walk. God shall sleep, lion and sheep. Valley shall keep I safe from harm. See visions in the corners of my mind. Truth revealing times.
The price of conservation through national parks and game reserves is mainly borne by the local population. both because they relinquish their hunting and fishing rights, and also because of the damage caused by wild animals. This is not only true for Gabon. Biodiversity conservation can only be achieved by keeping the whole puzzle in view. Unfortunately, there is no template for a coherent picture. Each situation requires an individual solution which is mindful of the invested interests of local communities, tourism and state development, as well as the needs of wildlife conservation and climate protection. Those players who are most familiar with the various perspectives are in the best position to find a solution. But no one can escape the contradictions.
En fait, c'est pas tout le monde qui sont appelés à travailler dans le parc. C'est vrai que les populations locales
Not everyone finds work in the national park. The local communities live from agriculture and fishing. They face the problem of elephants destroying their fields. That's why people say local communities reject the national park. Well, that's not true at all. They love the park. They just get too little support for their ravaged fields. Actually, they are proud of their park. Here in the forest, we do our safaris on foot. Unfortunately, you never know if you're going to see something interesting, like chimpanzees. That's nature's call.
But a good guide often knows how to lend a helping hand. Yuri's forefathers did the same when hunting. The sound of a Sitatunga antelope in distress attracts various animals.
Long before I found work with the agency, my grandparents taught me all about the forest and how to imitate the sounds of animals. I was able to develop this further when I started working in conservation and tourism, doing countless tours with visitors. When I hear monkeys and they haven't seen us yet, I take some branches and use them to imitate the sound of a crowned eagle. This really scares them because they think the eagle will attack their young. Crowned eagles do that a lot. When they hear the sound, the monkeys get really worked up and come to take a look. They rant and want to know what's going on. And then I hit the ground with leaves and scream like a little monkey in distress. Suddenly, all the monkeys are there, ready to attack.
I love it when he makes those sounds. I wish I could imitate animals, but it's not that easy. But bit by bit I can learn.
Grace has a dream. That's why she accompanies her cousin, Yuri, as often as possible into the rainforest.
I work for Loango Lodge as a waitress and cook. I prepare the food and do the rooms. But whenever I can, I join Yuri on a safari. I love it. The wildlife, the nature, everything. One day, I also want to be an eco-guide. I'm going to apply for the job.
The dangers lurking in the rivers and forest certainly won't stop her.
le serpent, c'est un agent.
And that's a water cobra. It lives in the river most of the time and catches fish. And that's all it eats.
Pas autre chose en dehors du poisson.
For those used to living here, the rainforest is not a perilous place, but a source of livelihood and sustenance. The sprawling network of lagoons, rivers and lakes is home to a diverse biotope of aquatic insects, amphibians, mollusks and reptiles. These in turn serve as sources of food for African finfoot, wagtails and hundreds of other bird species. For the human occupants, nature's abundance has even more to offer.
For us, it's marvellous. It's like having our own pharmacy, keeping us healthy and providing us with air to breathe. It must never be destroyed. We have to protect it.
Grace, Yuri and the many others who have found work as rangers, guides and as hotel staff have a greater opportunity of social advancement. But this can also lead to problems with those who feel left out, to the point of generational conflict.
À la recherche d'un air en couleur pour chanter le Gabon.
It's good if there's work, especially for the young. But to make it work, we need enough tourists and adequate training. Only the future will tell. The park is there for all of us. We keep it in our sights. We don't want to be left behind.
The National Park Agency's subsidising of the local village school is a good idea, especially when it's transformed into a church on Sundays. When the congregation gathers in church, their everyday hopes and wishes are the backdrop of their prayers, but also their concerns about living alongside wild animals. It's important that the lay minister reminds them of mankind's responsibility for God's creation.
There was air, plants, water, and all kinds of animals in the Garden of Eden. Flora and fauna were there before man's creation. It's therefore our responsibility to make sure the whole church community here understands that life in this reservation is there for the grace of God, which He grants specifically to His people.
The ever-present fear of elephants is the theme of several intercessions for divine help.
Fundamentally, an elephant is not a danger to man. It can't hurt him, because man is above the elephant. This is the principle of creation. It's a fundamental law.
But this clearly doesn't mean that nature is at man's mercy.
People have lived here for thousands of years. These people lived in perfect harmony with nature long before the national parks.
Subdue the earth, or should it be subdue yourselves? The sermon leaves this open.
You must know your place in creation, because God created you to give you everything. Water, forest, savanna, mountains. God created all of this and gave us the responsibility of looking after it. He made you nature's holder. We have a right to His work, but we must recognize His work's true greatness. Be aware of your own greatness, for God has not entrusted his work to anyone lesser. Local communities have intuitively understood the art of conservation for decades. We learned this from our parents, our grandparents and great-grandparents. They were the guardians of wildlife conservation. That's why we have many national parks in our country today. Gabon could be a top tourist destination.
As a businessman, the lay minister sees tourism's potential. Gabon as a future tourist magnet. There's little disagreement about this amongst the local population. The question of distribution, however, remains controversial.
There is a lack of balance, too little equality. What applies to some should apply to all. But we are the ones missing out. The park authorities live side by side with us. They have electricity and drinking water. We don't. And that's not good.
Although citing inequality with the park agency, there is also a broader sense of disparity with all those living in cities. Gabon's metropolitan areas also enjoy all the basic amenities. Moreover, environmental policy, with all its rules, is made in the capital, Libreville, where little is known about the everyday struggles of the rural population. At the same time, the cities are also the cause of environmental pollution, with consumer demands and a throwaway culture. Finding the balance between the urban-rural divide by political means is anything but easy, but that is exactly what the government hopes to achieve with its Green Gabon programme. An English-born biologist who has lived and carried out research in Gabon for the past 30 years helped initiate the programme. It's also why Professor Lee White was appointed the country's Minister of Environment.
Green Gabon it's not really about conservation, it's about sustainable development. It's about sustainably using our natural resources so that they provide renewable income forever. It's about making the best use of our natural resources. So instead of exporting raw timber to Europe or America or China so that they can make furniture and get all the value added from the raw commodity, shifting to banning the export of logs, obliging companies to transform the timber in Gabon. Today, we now have 10,000 more jobs than we had when we banned the export of raw timber. We can now turn 1 cubic meter into $20,000 worth of beautiful furniture here in Gabon, rather than selling 1 cubic meter for $500 so that somebody else can turn it into $20,000 of furniture.
Forests and rivers are the source of all life in the country. This is particularly evident in Lambar. The city lies on the Ogui River, Gabon's main artery. Fishing is extremely important in these waters. Practically the entire population lives from it. The salted and smoked fish feed large swathes of the heartland. Lambarene's fish market is the economic hub of a stunning natural habitat declared a wetland of international importance more than 10 years ago. This is one of the reasons why part of the region has been designated as Gabon's 14th national park. What this means for the population, however, is still on the cards and remains as mysterious as a recent spout of fish deaths.
The problem with our carp is hitting us hard. The people of Lambarene are suffering. Why? Well, there are many rumours. We can't tell if they are true or false, but we've been told the spout of fish deaths is being investigated. It might be pollutants. The big question is whether the Chinese dumped pollutants in our water or not. We don't know yet.
What cannot be disputed is that chemical fertilizers and pesticides are on sale at local markets. Ultimately, they'll end up in the rivers and enter the food chain.
This could affect our livelihood. Fishing is the only industry here on the Ogooué River's middle reaches. There are no other economic opportunities, no jobs. The fish are Lambarene's treasure, our only capital. If someone destroys it, what are we going to do? We have to take vigorous action. We all have children going to school, and they are suffering as a result.
Maybe in a historical place like this, carnival is also a cause of distraction, diverting people's attention away from such environmental issues. In Europe, Gabon is known for being home to the Albert Schweitzer Hospital in Lambarena. Today, the historic compound, including the famous doctor's private rooms, is now a museum. Although progress in medicine has increased by leaps and bounds since the days of the Nobel Prize winner, environmental quality has regressed. Gabon's rainforests still cover about 80% of its territory, but the quality of that rainforest has deteriorated massively. The reason for this is the constant deforestation of its most invaluable primeval giants, trees that are not only a habitat for chimpanzees. Hence, Green Gabon, a political project to promote sustainability.
Green Gabon is an ensemble of sustainable forestry, sustainable fisheries, climate resilient agriculture, managing the soil, dealing with pollution, and at the same time it's about national parks and preserving wildlife.
A trip into today's rainforest treasure trove still offers the promise of a precious encounter with rare animals. Fulfilling the climate protection goals is a prerequisite for their continued survival.
We love Africa, we love Africa, we love. Me say we love Africa, we love Africa, we love.
And if we don't do something today, that this country will not be what it is in 30 years if we don't do better than the Paris Agreement.
When I wake up in the morning and I see the sun shining.
Wildlife needs controlled protected areas, but their real ally in survival is the local population, the key to successful wildlife, environmental and climate protection, even if some are rather less enthusiastic about it.
We live with it. What else can you do? Elephants want to eat, just like we do. We get along with them. We're used to it. That's just the way it is.
When I wake up in the morning and I see the sun shining, I say thank you, Granddaddy, but we are still fighting. We love Africa, we love Africa, we love. We love Africa,